Hi, I'm Paul Kelly. I'm based in Bristol, originally from Ireland, and I came out of what we call the Dark Ages once I had my son, and now it's a battle between Lego in our house. This is a part of my collection that I've decided to display at the moment, and it's looking kind of back at a nostalgic element of it. So kind of sourcing stuff from online, various people selling from adverts from Lego back in the kind of 60s and 70s, and then looking at some of the history of Lego, which is in the frames, looking at some of the original kind of cars that they produced.
Before they made the bricks that we know of, then.
Before we made the bricks, yeah. Then we got some of the original bricks, which the design, how they used to work it. They kind of vary in the structure, and the kind of the slots in them were to be able to interlock them. But that, as we know, kind of developed on into different stages. But the idea of displaying them like this is just, I suppose, looking back on what some people that are visiting, what they've experienced, the original kind of toys that they would have got at their birthdays and Christmases, and then the collection of the kind of the sets. And I quite like the idea that these have been owned beforehand, played with, loved, and the condition to me doesn't matter too much. I suppose the parts do, but it's lovely to see where we've got on some of the boxes the people's names, the price, the stickers, and so forth, and then letting them live on rather than kind of going into a landfill. Then kind of trying to build on the sets of that they came out, started numbering the sets, and just looking at the evolution of the minifigures within these sets. The representation of people are in a kind of very basic format as we go through some of these.
How long ago was this in sort of year? When was this released?
These, as far as I know, were in the 70s. I have got a booklet that goes kind of through all of them, but it's seen the creativity of how far it's come. We can walk around the rest of the exhibition.
And how quickly as well, because these chaps here, the homemakers, they were in the early 70s as well, didn't they?
Yeah. So they introduced these minifigures, which were quite difficult to handle and maneuver, but yet on a very basic structure. Using the 2x2 kind of high blocks, just building on that. But it allowed people to kind of create, rather than just solid structures, but the moving objects, with the introduction of the wheel, which is in the advert. So I think it was the 60s, they came out with the slightly partial plastic, partial wood on the wheel. And then building on, and it's good to see kind of that they were introducing the kind of concept of the home within the structures and the building. Really kind of has a family orientation to it. And, even back in that time, it became more inclusive, that, they started representing girls on the boxes. So construction was not limited to the male or the boy, which was, quite different during that period of time.
Actually, I remember an advert they had that showed that creativity is not only for boys.
Yeah, it is.
With a very tomboyish girl, sort of with an amazing creation next to her. So these are the homemakers, and these on the right here are the evolution of the minifig?
Yeah, so it's looking at how they were kind of building together the original minifigure, which is a taller one, using the arms and so forth, and a very simple structure on the bottom left-hand corner, where it's non-moving parts, but still gave the representation and allowed people. If we look at this one here, with just 4 or 5 other bricks, it then suddenly becomes a moving object.
Yeah.
It gives a representation of a person, and it allowed the scale to change, so that when people were building a house, that the person wasn't bigger than the 2 stories in the house, so it kind of built that in.
Which was a problem with the homemaker dolls, wasn't it? Because they were always way too big.
So it would be kind of on the Duplo side. But then sometimes it's just lovely to come across and you'll find sets that have never been opened. So factory sale.
Never be played with.
Just to kind of keep them and document them and have them as a part of a collection.
So, out of all these, which is your most prized possession?
Ooh, I think it would have to be the original bricks. I think, to have something of that age and the origin and to see how far it's traveled, I think where it started, even, the unusual L-shaped brick, which I don't think they're producing in any sets anymore.
And what can you tell me about this one?
So in, I think it was 1935, the Lego were actually originally producing wooden toys. So we had the pull-along cockerel and hen and the dog on the string, which are all wooden toys. And this is one of the carriages from a train set. But then they moved on to creating Lego as we know it now.
So that's a genuine Lego piece of history, essentially.
Yeah.
Where did you find it?
A supplier from Denmark who specializes in vintage Lego.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. This is a lovely collection. Thank you very much.
Thank you.